I fundamentally believe like literally every single major or student at a college should take at least one intro coding class. Because one, I think it's super easy to pick up. And two, I think the things you can do with this technical knowledge with coding and everything is absolutely like infinite. I have this opportunity in my hands to be a software engineering intern at like a super awesome company, and I can't let this slip. So I wrote a super long email telling them, I think it was like 800 words. I gave them like literally poured my heart out in the email and said, hey, like I can work EST hours in Hong Kong, which is 9 p.m. to like 5:30 a.m., 6 a.m. The most important thing that new grads or college students should think about is whether or not they are a mission-driven person.
Yeah.
I think one thing that other people can't be better than you at, or AI can't be better than you at, is being authentically you. And I urge like a lot of young people to do that as soon as possible.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 13 of Boba Talk, a podcast where we talk about all things tech, programming, and everything in between. My name is Ellie. I'm a curriculum dev at Codédex, and I'm here with Tyrus Yeo, a recent UMich grad, and now a founding engineer at a startup here in New York City. But yeah, Tyrus, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Feel free to introduce yourself, give us your origin story. We love a good origin story here. And also, what boat were you drinking?
Hey guys, I'm Tyrus. I recently moved into the city and I just moved into Bushwick this weekend. So things are a little hectic, but
Love it.
I love New York. I originally went to school at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. A great little college town. Had a lot of fun, met a lot of awesome people. And yeah, I just kind of found my way to New York. I was originally from Hong Kong. It's pretty far away, like 8,000 miles away. It's a huge culture change. There's a lot to learn, but yeah, I think I'm settling in. You know, New York's treating me well. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Amazing, yeah. And yeah, so right now for your job, you're a founding engineer at Ditto, and Tyrus and I haven't met, but we're going to meet last year because we were both interns here in the city. And yeah, now, you know, you have graduated, moved on, and we're all curious to know what is Ditto, and also like what's kind of the whole story there with how you have the job that you have now.
Yeah, super happy to talk a little bit more about Ditto. How I like to see Ditto is kind of like your notes app going public. I see Ditto as a space for you to dump all your unhinged thoughts and your hot takes onto a special place on the internet, because I fundamentally don't think there is a dedicated space for that on the internet. You know, I myself as a user, as an internet aficionado, think that all the short form content on the internet right now is pretty draining. I'm kind of tired of it. So when I came across Ditto, well, back then it's called Breezy, it was a breath of fresh air and just a place for like this new community for it. And I see this new form of content through bullet points and lists. And that absolutely like inspired me. And I thought this is a great place to be. Got in touch with the founders through a VC, through Neo. And I really aligned with their vision. Connor and Lily, I think they're super bright, super smart. And I have to admit, I think joining a startup is like 10% delusion, and like the rest of it is just like absolute belief.
Yeah.
And yeah, I totally believed in their vision, and I really wanted to contribute as much as possible. And I think at the end of the day, I aligned and I vibed really well with them as people too. And yeah, now here I am.
Yeah. And then you mentioned Neo. Like, so what is Neo? And because I heard of Neo through, I went to the Harvard We Code conference, I think back in 2023. And Neo, I think also was, you know, promoted themselves as like a startup accelerator. But what exactly is that? And also how did you get in touch with actually making that connection to Connor and Lily, which are the co-founders? So
Neo is a VC, a venture capitalist firm that funds super early stage startups. I think their mantra is funding founders first instead of ideas first. So they bet really heavily on people. And I think they operate between the coasts right now, SF and New York. And I got in touch with Neo because my friends at UMich actually were already part of this talent program called Neo Scholars. I applied, got in touch, and I was just chatting to someone on there, another Neo Scholar. and asking her about like career advice,
Yeah.
what I should think about. And I think back then I was a rising senior, you know, I was a little stressed out about, you know, what's next, what's after college. And we had a great chat, and she was like, hey, like my friend is founding this company in consumer and they're also backed by Neo. You should totally chat. And that's how I got my introduction with Connor, which is the CTO. And we absolutely hit it off. We had great chats. And again, like, as I said, like, here I am.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I feel like, well, we have a lot of like our platform is based on like, you know, students learning to code for the first time. I feel like many students are in the position that you were just a few years ago, right? Like you moved halfway across the world from, you know, Hong Kong. And like when you were moving or when you were going to first start college, like, did you know what you wanted to do? Did you know what you wanted to study? And was there a path that you had in mind specifically?
Short answer, absolutely not. I think when I first applied to UMich, and I guess like my first few weeks at UMich as a freshman, I still thought I was gonna be an econ major.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I was pretty good at econ in high school. When I submitted my Common App, I was like, hey, like I was good at econ. Why not just write about that?
Yeah.
I got super excited that I made it into UMich, and still thought I was doing that for like a good month. And then I met some super awesome folks that run like this tech entrepreneurship club on campus. And they kind of took me under the arm and showed me absolutely everything they knew about, you know, this mystical, elusive world of tech entrepreneurship and tech startups and stuff like that. I took the first CS class at UMich, and I was instantly hooked.
What's like the intro class?
Yeah.
What's it called?
It's called EECS 183. It's called EECS because
it's like ECE?
Yes,
too?
It's electrical engineering, computer science. They're all bundled up together at UMich. It's like the first intro class. And I fundamentally believe like literally every single major or student at a college should take at least one like coding class.
Yeah.
Intro coding class. Because one, I think it's super easy to pick up. And two, I think the things you can do with this technical knowledge with coding and everything is absolutely like infinite. And that absolutely changed my life. I gave it a shot and it changed my life. So I really think like other people can like benefit from this too.
Did you code in high school?
Not really.
Okay.
I took like, again, like another super intro class. We didn't do AP back in my high school.
Yeah.
I did IB.
Oh my gosh, me too.
Yeah. It was a struggle.
Yeah.
First of all.
What a concept of a program that was.
Yeah. It was great, but it was really intense.
Yeah.
And I took like a quick intro CS class, and I swear, I think the only thing I remember from that class was how to convert hex codes to binary.
Okay.
Now thinking back, I'm like, that's not really coding. Like it's fundamental, like super basic fundamental stuff.
Yeah.
But I think my short answer is no. I never really coded. I did a lot of like Scratch.
Okay. Yeah.
Like
So
super early
concepts
stages
of coding.
Yes, exactly. Concepts of it, but I never really like wrote a program, built an app in high school, or like, you know, did a lot of like the traditional things. Other, I guess, like CS focused high schoolers would have.
And so then when you were like then at UMich, you have now taken your first coding class and you wanted to sort of go down that path. At that point, you know, the internship recruitment process is happening. So this is like 2022, 2023.
Yep.
Like, how was that for you? Because I know it's 2025. I feel like getting an internship, getting even your first job post-grad has been really difficult for a lot of people. Totally. And I'm curious, so like 2 years ago, how was that for you? Also, UMich is like a target like CS school.
Right.
How was that like for you?
Again, like short answer, absolutely daunting. I never really coded in high school. Didn't really have like projects or anything to list. I just transferred into like the CS school, the CS program. I just got like up to speed with what like coding is as like a concept and everything, right? So back at 2022, I think it was pretty tricky. A lot of my other peers are like already like recruiting for like big tech, Fortune 500s, because, you know, they've had previous experience from high school or from their family friends or just from like their personal like interests. And I was super fresh into this field. So I think back then, in order to differentiate myself, I had to connect in a slightly different way. I don't think I could win by just applying normally, getting through the resume screening process and everything, because I was getting rejected left and right if I tried that. And I realized the best way forward was I either get warm intros or warm connections. So I started reaching out like a lot on LinkedIn. I now realize that is actually like not warm connecting. That back then it was just like cold emailing, cold LinkedIn connecting with founders and saying like, hey, like I'm super young, super new. I admit like I don't have much experience, but I'm happy to like learn as much as possible and do as much as possible for the company. And for me, I think I was super well-rounded in other aspects, like product thinking and like strategy and growth and stuff like that. So I pitched a lot of that alongside my need to like, or my want to be like a software engineer intern too. And that really rounded me off. And I think now looking back, it made sense for me to be in like a startup because you do want to like wear like multiple hats.
Do you feel like that's why you kind of went this route of like being at a startup? Or was your first job when you like finally got that first internship, was that a startup too?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit more about it. I think it was sophomore year, summer.
Are you at this point now like a computer science major? Have you made that switch?
Okay. I think I was like 2 semesters in though.
Okay.
Freshman year, I was like undeclared.
Yeah.
Sophomore year, I like took all like the hard classes and stuff. And then sophomore year, summer, yes, I was like officially like a CS major. And yes, back then it was a seed staged B2B SaaS company, also based out of New York. And back then I already flew back to Hong Kong when I first got the offer.
Yeah.
Crazy story. They were like, hey, like everything's moving really quickly at this company. I don't know if we can like accommodate you given like this 12-hour time difference that you have in Hong Kong and New York and EST. And I was like, I have this opportunity in my hands to be a software engineering intern at like a super awesome company and I can't let this slip. So I wrote a super long email telling them, I think it was like 800 words. I gave them like literally poured my heart out in the email and said, hey, like I can work EST hours in Hong Kong, which is 9 p.m. to like 5:30 a.m., 6 a.m. And I think that was the best decision I could have made because that was my first foray into one, getting a tech internship job.
Yeah.
And two, working at a startup, a super fast-paced environment. I have a lot of agency. I can pick and choose what I want to work on and I can learn like as much as possible because I am pretty much like one jump away from the founders.
Yeah,
the founders that have sculpted the company that I work at literally sit next to me or my next summer and we can just chat and like I can learn more about the product.
Yeah.
So again, it was super daunting. The hours were pretty crazy, but I learned.
And this was the whole summer.
Yes, that was the whole summer.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then so once you were like there, you went back to school.
Yep.
And so after that, so I guess now we can see like that was obviously like very, I mean, this was like the opportunity that you had. It was about to go away. And so I'm also curious about this company was New York based. And then now the company after, you said that this was now like your next summer, right? For your next internship?
Yeah. So the great thing now is I've actually worked with the same company throughout my junior year after I was done with my sophomore year internship. Same company. I worked like 20 hours a week, 15-ish hours a week during school. And then I wanted to roll that into the next summer too. So pretty much I worked for a year straight in the same company.
Okay.
And I worked there junior year, summer too.
Okay. At this point, were you in the city?
Yes.
Okay.
I learned from the first summer
You're
in
like,
sophomore
no.
year. I'm absolutely flying into the city, coming to New York and working in the office because again, like I think you get a lot more context and you get just a lot more like time, not siloed away from the founders and the other engineers at the company. And that's where you can actually like learn as much as possible. Yeah. And kind of like give it your 100%. And that's exactly what I did. Junior year summer, I was here, I was working a lot and I learned a lot.
Yeah, I know. And I feel like I could definitely relate being like at Codédex too, is like nothing really beats like the in-person energy. And I'm curious, like also now that you are like in New York City and stuff, like you have officially started now with Ditto. And what has, I think, your experience been like as a founding engineer? Because you're growing, I guess, like building an app from like the bottom up, essentially, right?
Totally, yeah. I think at Ditto, my biggest takeaway is, especially as a founding engineer too, is you have so much breadth in your work. Yeah. To give you guys an example, when I first joined the company at Ditto, I was working on a lot of front end changes. I revamped the entire onboarding flow when the users like first join the app. I don't know if you saw, it's like a drag and drop animation.
Yeah.
And so that was super cool, thinking about product first, how to like, draw users in and have them kind of, because I personally think the first touch point of an app, and especially a social consumer app, is the onboarding.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a great onboarding, you're going to lose your users right away. So that was super fun. But now more recently, I've transitioned a lot into like back-end work, working with a lot more like APIs and endpoints and stuff like that. And I'm even like writing up like cron jobs for like microservices and stuff. And traditionally, to compare, these are all like siloed teams in a big company. Like you'd have front-end engineers only doing front-end at like big tech, or like you'd have a specific team only working on this specific microservice at a big tech company. And I think at a startup that all kinds of gets like kind of melted away. And as a founding engineer, and honestly, as like a software engineer in general at an early stage startup, you can get your hands dirty and like dip in all these different cookie jars of
just like different technical areas.
Exactly, different technical areas and different corners of what engineering work might be in a company. So that was super awesome. And I think to answer your question about how I got there and the learnings involved is, yes, I think formal education in college is decently important, but I think there's fundamentally a disparity between computer science as a discipline and software engineer as a practice. That's how I see it. Because at UMich, you kind of learn all the concepts and ideas of I guess, the foundations of software engineering and computer science. But then at work, you're using brand new technologies like React, like TypeScript, and stuff like that to implement in your work. And I'm going to be honest, I really only took one class about React in college. And everything else is kind of self-learned, taught on the job. And a lot of it was actually like just failing and messing up and writing like buggy code. And you learn and you say, hey, like I should probably not write it the same way next time. I should probably read up on documentation.
Yeah.
So this is a lot of like self-discovery. And again, like startups give you the space to go self-discover and doesn't really have guardrails to prevent you from, messing up, so then you can learn way better and kind of learn from this process.
Yeah. I think also going to the University of Illinois, like also same, like, I guess,
Right.
Also like a very like top computer science school as well. I'd say, yeah, a lot of the same things. I think I know a lot of like you learn computer science, but like actually like building like apps and things, I feel like is a more recent thing that I feel like universities, professors are catching up to is like, yeah, you don't really learn like React like in like a college class unless you specifically, I think, like take, certain classes or, yeah. So definitely also like felt that when I was in college as well. And what you feel like your advice would be to like students right now, or even people who like are just graduated, have like some experience under their belt, or even like none at all, if they are a good fit for startups? Because it seems like you started from learning your way up and then also, right, getting an internship. You kind of talked about it a little bit, but I'm curious if you could expand on like what was it about like the startup, I think like energy, and also why have you had like maybe, I don't know, stories or something about like a bad startup or somewhere where like it's either like culture, like kind of what's important to you for like a good like startup that you felt that you could actually learn in? Because I know that sometimes there are startups where you like don't really learn much or like are overworked even, right? There's like a work-life balance there. I'm curious like how kind of you felt like working in startups.
Totally. How I see it is the tech startup world is like a mixed bag of like candies, or some snacks or some fruits. Some of them are like super awesome, super well credited, backed by like awesome investors, which is one signal of if the startup is credible. But you can also have another flavor that might not taste so nice or might be rotten that kind of gives or shines a bad light on or gives signal that said startup might not be as good of a fit for you personally. I think that's like a huge topic that we can totally get into about like how to vet what makes a startup good and how I think personally from my end, how much of a fit you have with said company. Because you can have a great startup and you might just not enjoy your work at the end of the day and you still wouldn't have a good experience, right? So I personally think like as, coming from a previous student that didn't quite know what they were doing, especially in the startup space, and especially in the recruiting space, I think the most important thing is to look on the inside and be super introspective on what you want out of your career. I think this is where you get space to really reflect and understand like, hey, like for me specifically, like what do I want out of my career and what are the different elements that I want in my work that I can have? So for me, it would be, I want to have agency. I want to know and I want to be able to plan and control what I spend my time on and work on at work. I want it to be super multidisciplinary. I want to wear multiple hats because I personally, as a career and as a person, just love to jump on different things. I get like slightly like shiny object syndrome. I'm like, oh, this is new. This is cool. Let me jump on this and work on this. Or like, this is pretty interesting. Boom, let me jump on that. So this allows me to work across different disciplines in the company that a startup would give that a traditional company wouldn't. So this would mean like working across engineering, product, growth, strategy, marketing, and everything. And I think for me, the most important thing that new grads or college students should think about is whether or not they are a mission-driven person or a tech-driven or like solution-driven.
Okay, what does that mean to be like mission-driven?
Yeah, totally.
Or like tech-driven?
I think for me, I personally discovered this like not super duper early either. I think I really understood the idea or the notion of like mission versus like tech-driven like person or engineer like at the end of my junior year going into senior year.
Okay.
I kind of had like a college crisis and like was like, hey, like what am I doing with my life? What am I gonna do like after college? Like what is my career gonna mean to me as a person? And what is the impact I have on society? I think those are questions that one, everyone should ask themselves, especially if you're gonna be a new grad student or you're, stepping into senior year. But I think categorically speaking, a mission-driven person is driven by a lot of internal markers and morals more specifically. And then kind of pairing this career that they have to the morals. It's like morals come first. Your notion of what like a successful career comes first. Whereas for a tech-first kind of engineer or a tech-first person, it'd be like, hey, like you match it super externally or your signals are super external. It might be like, oh, I look at this company first and you say, like, hey, they're building some cool stuff. I don't know if I'll enjoy it necessarily like a lot upfront, but I'm happy to just kind of throw myself in. And as long as the engineering problems is interesting, I'll have a great time. But for me, I'm mission driven in the sense that, hey, like I already want to know that the work that I'm going to be able to do as an engineer has greater impact.
Yeah, it's like impactful.
Exactly. Than just like a typical like hard engineering problem. Like what I'm trying to say is you shouldn't jump on a company or a project, an engineering project, because the engineering problem is hard. Like hard shouldn't be your end all be all. It shouldn't be a signal.
Yeah.
But for me, I love to get people connected. I love to reshape how humans connect and interact in like this social media dominated century.
Yeah.
So again, like everything combined, this kind of led me to Ditto. It's a lot of vision-driven, kind of moral-driven reasoning for me.
And I love Ditto for that reason too. I feel like it is such, Tyrus and I were talking. I was on Ditto, like it's, the concept of like a list-making app that you put in your like, it's like your notes app, but like public sort of thing. And I was on it before it was Ditto because it used to be something like, used to be Breezy.
Yep.
And now with the rebrand. And I saw it on TikTok and also just like seeing like, all the growth and like how much it's also been, there's so much on there.
There is a lot.
I love, yeah, I personally love like that sort of like community, right? Because it's almost like community building almost. And it's really fun to like be able to like see that like while, I'm sure like like building that, like you get to really like shape a lot of people's experiences on the app. Even like just like working like at a startup, I think now it's super common. I feel like even at like Illinois, and I'm sure like at UMich, there's a lot surrounding like, oh, like working at a startup, being your own like founder, like being, building up your own business essentially in software. I am, I guess, like interested in like how you felt that this was something that you thought that this would be like, I think maybe like transformative for you, or it's because it's an untraditional
Definitely
path. I think at Illinois, and I'm sure at Michigan, it's like a bubble almost.
Definitely.
Right. And I'm curious, like it's an untraditional path for, just people like learning online, like, or wanting to like go into just like the tech field in general. What were, I think, like ways that you felt that like once you sort of were going down this path, it's like, I kind of want to like stay here. And I know you talked about like, the mission, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, this untraditional path.
Totally. I 110% agree that at honestly any like major engineering college
in
the America, everyone's either, shooting for big tech, Fortune 500s, defense companies, and startups is somewhat a minority for students to kind of shoot for, and it's somewhat off the beaten track. Although popularity has been like increasing in the
I feel like
past
with,
few years.
Like the AI
yes.
boom as well. There's a lot of AI startups too.
Exactly. I think my personal learning and my personal mantra that I try to live by is like young people need to do more creative things. And the world needs more young people to do creative things. And that is the common trope for tech startups. Like these super young founders that either drop out of college, or like they're maybe like 27, 28, and they come on and they do their thing. They think the world has this problem that's unsolved, and they're gonna set out and solve for that problem. I think this in itself is absolutely inspiring, and that is one of the cornerstones of why I decided to join a startup. And I think at the end of the day, like I wanted to be a founder too. And this is
interesting.
This is everything in my journey that I think would help me kind of achieve that like ultimatum or that goal.
Yeah.
Right? So I think back to the startup scene in college, I think for me, it's one, meeting like-minded people that also want to go down that path. But again, back in end of junior year, summer, going into senior year, I did a lot of soul searching to understand like, hey, would I really want to work on one super specific team on a specific problem, only doing front end for like the next like 5-6 years of my life?
Yeah.
Again, like this, there's no right or wrong answer. Some people would love to do that. I myself do not. And with everything combined, it kind of just led me down this road to joining a startup. And as I said before, joining a startup gives you so much agency over how you spend your time and how you can mold and shape your career. Like I think right now, again, another example would be like, if I don't really think this project that I'm working on at Ditto would push the needle, I could totally tell the founders and we could take it back to the table and reevaluate.
Yeah.
I could jump on another project. We can think about product roadmap in a different way. And I think at Ditto, I love this open conversation. And I believe that is the common culture for startups. It's super open. There is no red tape. You kind of do everything for the product and for the success of the company.
And I feel like a lot of, when I hear about, I think my friends at bigger companies, there's a lot of layers of approval that things have to go through, especially like when you're starting out. And I feel, there's definitely like pros and cons to it.
Totally.
But I think the limits, I guess, like being endless to these sort of things is like really pushes you creatively, I'm sure.
And I think for me too, like it's, as you said, like the learnings are limitless, but on top of that, it's you being able to drive that learning yourself. A lot of this, as
Yeah.
I said, is like self-driven. You mess up a lot. You learn from these stories a lot. You have experiences that might be pretty scarring. But like at the end of the day, you learn so much more from it than if you had guardrails up, which again, like typically have been set in place in bigger companies and you never failed in the first place. So I think the engineering culture at Ditto and just the company vision at Ditto allows us to do all this
Yeah.
and allows us to bet big, do big things, succeed big, and also fail big at the same time. And at the end of the day, we're just a list app that's driving culture on the internet, right? So I think the super special thing about Ditto is that we are a consumer-based company. I think things would be decently different if I worked in, let's just say, an AI B2B SaaS company and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, I think there's a lot more room to execute and be creative at Ditto. And you know,
And that's very unique to, I guess, the position.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then really quickly, I wanted to touch on like your thoughts on, because as you mentioned, like Ditto is consumer facing app and it's a list app, which we know I feel like are like very like, I guess, popular sort of like apps. What would you say like differentiates Ditto from like any other list making app, or why? It's like just notoriously hard like to get users. And this is similar to like also like map apps in general too. So I'm curious, like being a list app, what makes Ditto different?
Super valid question. I think how we see it at Ditto and how I see it personally too is we're driving this cultural wedge into different sub niches and sub communities on the internet. I'm saying on campus because we're actually launching on campus
exciting.
super duper soon. This coming fall, actually, Ditto's coming to your nearest campus. And how we see it is that this is very bottoms up community building. A lot of founders in other consumer social apps might be like, hey, like there's this super niche problem that you have. You should definitely download our app because it will fix it. But for us, I think at the end of the day, someone hops on an app and joins as a user because they want connection. I think they're searching and yearning for community. And again, like the loneliness epidemic is like a huge thing right now, right? And I think at Ditto, what we believe is like everyone has a thought to share. And Instagram and existing incumbents don't provide that safe space for you to share. If anything, Ditto as a list making app and your content being in list bullet point form is super duper open and free for you to post anything. We had someone rank the list of performative behaviors they can have. Or they can tell us their best matcha spots in New York. Or they can treat it super normally like a journaling app and say like, hey, like this is my to-do list for today. I need to lock in. Or we had some girl that just got dumped and wanted to list all the red flags she saw in her ex.
Yeah.
So again, with the list form as a universal context and a universal medium, it gives the user all this power to dump their thoughts and ideas and that's opinions.
Part of the reason why I also just like love it. It's just so great. And I think you guys also have this concept of like there's a live topic. I don't know how often it changes, but you'll go on so that it gives you like a inspiration / idea for like what to make your list on. And I just feel like it's with the live, it gives you ideas to like, you know, post like different lists. And that's been really fun.
You know, it's pretty fun. I think
such a good platform.
No, I think the current, we call it hot topics. The current live hot topic is Dear Freshman Me.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, I'm sure you have plenty of things to say to your freshman self. And I do too. So I am going to hop on later and make a list about, you know, why I shouldn't have taken this class.
Right.
Or maybe I shouldn't have talked to this person because they were kind of a red flag.
Yeah.
Or, you know, everything of the sorts.
For sure. It's like what you said, like it's like journaling almost too.
Yes.
Like
it's
it could definitely be that. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And no, hopefully, and also like if this seems interesting to anyone watching or listening, to check out Ditto.
It's on the App Store.
Cool. And then I think this also really ties into like, during your time as a student, what are some things that you wish that you did differently and things that I guess like you would change about, your position that you are in now, like kind of that journey getting there?
Yeah. Very in theme, I realized. Dear freshman me. But I personally think I wouldn't have changed a single thing or a single decision I've made in college. I think I am where I am now, and I'm very satisfied where I am now because of all the decisions I've made. But I would say there were a few themes that I picked up on that I wished I could have done better. And I think the first thing, and honestly the biggest thing, is to find your own people and to find your own tribe is how I would phrase it. College is a big place. There's a lot of students.
Yeah.
There's students from everywhere. You're gonna run into people that you like. You're gonna run into people that you hate. And you're gonna run into people that hate you. So there's all this room for you to go out there and explore your tribe at the end of the day. You can build this super tight-knit circle of your best friends, your ride or dies back in college. And I think that is an absolute lifelong skill that is super important to have, especially, again, super applicable to us now because we're moving to a big city.
Right.
Don't really know a soul. You have to do all this like friend making,
right? And as
soul
adults,
searching,
it's like
and,
different.
It's totally different because everyone has a job and everyone's busy on weekends. They already have plans. You gotta make plans like 3 weeks ahead. And I'm like, guys, what happened to just hanging out after work? But I think, yes, the main thing I think in college, Dear Freshman Me edition, is trying to search for that community from the start. I think I started on it slightly a little bit too late. My method of doing that in college was joining clubs, meeting people. I think that's a super common way. But the one that kind of altered my brain chemistry and changed how I see this entire view about like, meeting your tribe and meeting the people that are just like you is actually hosting events.
Yes.
I hosted a lot of events in my senior year in college and I absolutely loved it. I wish I started that freshman year. I would have met so many cooler people and just known a lot more stories and knew a lot more ideas. But unfortunately, I did it senior year. But again, like I don't regret that at all.
Better late than never.
Better late than never. And now that is my learning that I take pretty much to everywhere and will always follow me because I will be doing the same in New York.
Totally agree. I was a Notion campus ambassador and hosted a ton of events also my last year of college. And yeah, it's such a great way to like bring people together, bring like very similar, it's like like-minded people. And I feel like that's also what I went into college really thinking. It's like, I want to find like-minded people. And I didn't even really know what that was at the time. It's like very like, what does that even mean? But I knew that I wanted that. And I think definitely like the hosting and also just like being able to even like either hosting or like going to like these events or clubs. Yeah, I totally 100% like agree with you and can attest to that. This has honestly been like such a great conversation and I'm really glad that you were able to talk about, what Ditto is, also how you got to like being a founding engineer. Like, and I feel like this also can be, I think like, proof to people that like, you don't have to start coding at like, 13 and it's definitely, connections I think were a really big part of, how you got to like where you are and also just like being really like driven about, it seems like it's hard and it's really hard right now to get a job in the first place or like even getting to like be picky about what it is that like you do because there's so many, just like I feel like with the job market right now and like being in computer science in general.
Totally.
Yeah. Curious to also know like where people can keep up with you and your work. Obviously we know that you're at Ditto and we can kind of see you in the behind the scenes. Where can people find your work?
Totally. Twitter and Instagram, Tyrus_Yeo.
Okay.
I also run this community called the Midnight Collective. I think on Instagram it's the Midnight and then .collective. And again, I just want to re-emphasize like I think in this current job market and with how everything's shaping up with AI and everything, I think one thing that other people can't be better than you at, or AI can't be better than you at, is being authentically you. I think for me, as I said, like, I've realized I love creating communities, doing bottoms up community building and hosting events and having people connect and seeing people connect. I think that culminated into me joining Ditto. And I wouldn't have wanted to join Ditto otherwise. And I think for me right now, I'm in a great place, in the right headspace, and there is this perfect person problem parity between me and like what I'm doing at Ditto. And again, I want to reemphasize, like, it's costed a lot of soul searching to get here. And I urge like a lot of young people to do that as soon as possible. But other than that, there's a lot of things planned. So if you want to be interested,
Yes.
please stay in touch on Twitter, on Instagram, and stuff like that. And on Ditto.
On Ditto, yep.
My username's T, just like letter T on
Oh my
Ditto.
gosh, love that. Yeah.
So yeah, like, I want to thank you to the team for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining. This has been so fun. And yeah, we're excited to see what you do next.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Awesome.